everything okay?
Yes, everything's fine.
Oh, okay, we just gotta call us.
Man, stay in the car.
Oh my God, can you leave from right here, bro? Y'all are illegal. Can you give me gas money? Can one of y'all give me gas? Y'all got money? Y'all can give me gas? I'm recording. I'm recording. Okay, we're sorry.
The night air in Orlando was humid and heavy. It was March 20, 2024. The time was just past midnight. A black Mercedes-Benz sat stationary in the parking lot. The engine was cold. The windows were rolled up. Inside, two figures sat in the darkness. They were isolated from the other vehicles at the Wawa gas station. To the average observer, they were invisible. To the tactical unit patrolling the area, they were a target. The neighborhood had a reputation for narcotics activity. Officers monitored the lot specifically for outlier behaviors. This vehicle fit the profile. It was parked away from the pump. It was distant from the store entrance. The occupants were not exiting. The officers initiated a consensual encounter. This is a standard police procedure. It allows officers to approach citizens without probable cause. They can ask questions. The citizen is free to leave. That dynamic exists only until suspicion arises. In this case, the shift happened in seconds. The silence of the parking lot broke with a tap on the glass. The driver rolled down her window. Her name was Summer. She was young and visibly agitated. Beside her sat Mark, her boyfriend. He appeared calmer but wary. An officer shone his flashlight into the cabin. The beam cut through the dark interior. "Is everything okay?" the officer asked. His tone was casual but probing. Summer responded immediately. "Yes, everything's fine." The officer explained his presence. He cited a call about a suspicious vehicle. "We're just checking out to make sure you guys are good." This was the investigative hook. Summer explained her presence. "I'm just sitting right here and on my phone." The officer pressed for identification. "Do you have your ID on you?" Summer declined. "No, I don't. Not right now." She stated the car belonged to her girlfriend. The officer's demeanor shifted. He had detected a scent. The odor of burnt cannabis is distinct. In Florida, this scent carries legal weight. It provides probable cause for a search. It allows for the detention of occupants. The officer transitioned from inquiry to accusation. "Do you have a medical marijuana card?" He broadened the question to the passenger. "Does anybody have a medical marijuana card in the car?" Summer denied the presence of drugs. "No weed in here, sir." The officer challenged her denial. "You do not smell weed?" The interaction had now crossed a legal threshold. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches. However, the plain smell doctrine is an exception. Courts have ruled the nose is a reliable diagnostic tool. If an officer smells contraband, the privacy shield evaporates. Summer did not know the legal ground had shifted. She felt harassed. She felt targeted. Summer's voice rose in pitch. She unleashed a torrent of personal grievances. "We're having a seriously bad day," she said. Seriously bad day. She explained her economic desperation. "I just lost my job." She described the intrusion as a hassle. "This is a hassle for you to come here bothering us." Her frustration was palpable. She felt the officer was kicking her while she was down. The officer remained focused on the odor. He was not there to discuss employment. He was there to investigate narcotics. "I smell it coming from you," he stated. Summer became defensive. "You don't smell anything." She demanded he leave. "Can you please leave from my car?" This demand was legally futile. Once probable cause is established, the citizen cannot terminate the encounter. Summer was operating under a misunderstanding of her rights. She believed innocence of action equaled freedom from scrutiny. The law does not align with this belief. The officer pointed out other vehicles. He noted she was the only one isolated. Summer countered with logic about the store's hours. "This is Wawa, open 24 hours. She claimed they had just purchased drinks. "We just came from the store and bought a drink." She reiterated her crisis. "I just lost my job today. The officer was unmoved. He continued to press the investigation. Summer turned her anger toward the intrusion. "You come in here bothering me, bro, so please just move." She pointed to other people smoking nearby. She accused the officer of selective enforcement. "Why you not talking to them?" She claimed the smell came from elsewhere. "They over there smoking and everything, that's probably what you smell." This is a common defense in crowded areas. It is rarely successful in court. The officer's testimony regarding the specific source of the odor usually prevails. Summer's agitation escalated to accusations of illegality. "That's illegal," she asserted. "You can't just come at the people car." She threatened to verify her story inside the store. "I'm going to go in Wawa and ask them." The officer did not prevent her from speaking. He stood his ground by the door. Summer asserted her ownership of the space. "You can't tell me to get out my car, because this is my car." This was a critical error in legal judgment. Under the federal precedent, Pennsylvania v. Mims, officers have broad authority. They can order a driver out of a vehicle during a lawful stop. This is a matter of officer safety. It does not require additional suspicion. The smell of marijuana had already validated the stop. The order to exit was lawful. Summer's refusal was now a criminal act. It violated Florida Statute 843.02. This statute prohibits resisting an officer in the lawful execution of their duty. The officer issued a command: "Keep the window down." Summer ignored the implicit control. She began to roll it up. The officer blocked the window. "Put." "Why?" "Because now you're detained." He made her status explicit. "You're detained for drug investigation." He clarified her lack of freedom. "You're not free to go." Summer did not accept this new reality. "I'm staying in the car," she declared. This was the moment of no return. Passive noncompliance turns into active resistance. Mark attempted to intervene verbally. "Call your sergeant now," Summer demanded. She believed a supervisor would de-escalate the situation. "I do not want to speak to you people." She reiterated her narrative of victimization. "We didn't do anything at all." She described her living situation. "I'm homeless, sleeping in my car." The tragedy of her situation was real. The legal jeopardy was also real. The officer remained stoic. He listened to her monologue without interrupting. Summer listed her credentials. "I'm a professional welder." She distinguished herself from criminals. "I don't have to steal, I don't have to kill." She appealed to a moral standard. "I believe in working hard for what I want." She contrasted her ethics with the officer's actions. "What y'all doing is wrong." She accused him of boredom. "I don't know if y'all bored, y'all want something to do." She was pleading for humanity. The officer was operating on procedure. He was building a case for obstruction. He allowed her to vent for several minutes. This period is often tactical. It allows additional units to arrive. It allows the subject to exhaust their adrenaline. It also provides ample evidence of non-compliance on body camera. Summer continued to refuse the search. "You cannot search this car because you're wrong." The officer tried a different tactic. He attempted to explain the legal basis. "Can walk to any vehicle in any public area," he said. He described the initial approach, which is what we call a consensual encounter. Summer fixated on the engine status. "Yeah, but my car isn't on." She believed a parked car offered more protection. The law treats parked cars in public spaces similarly to moving ones regarding probable cause. The officer dismissed her argument. "We check out with vehicles all the time." He moved to the next phase. "You're not checking this vehicle, I'm sorry." The impasse was total. The officer issued a final warning. "You're now detained." He repeated the status. Everybody in the car and the vehicle. Mark tried to invoke legal knowledge. "We know our rights, Summer. We know our rights." He advised her to wait. "We'll just wait for call the sergeant." He hoped to delay the inevitable. The officer was done waiting. He signaled to his partner. The tone shifted from negotiation to command. "Step out for me." Summer refused. "No, you're not. Don't touch my car." She became territorial. "Move from my car." The officer escalated the threat. You're going to go to jail. Summer was incredulous. Oh my God, bro, I don't want to deal with this. The officer gave a clear ultimatum. I'm asking you to step out. You don't, I'm going to take you out. This is the use of force warning. It places the liability for violence on the subject. If they do not comply, the officer is authorized to use physical means. Summer screamed, "Do not touch me." The officer opened the door. Step out. The physical barrier was removed. Summer did not move to exit. She remained seated. "I'm about to get up," she claimed. Her actions did not match her words. She was still in the seat. The officer reached in. He grabbed her arm. The reaction was chaotic. "He grabbing me, babe," Summer yelled. Mark pleaded from the passenger seat. "Okay, sir, okay, you've had plenty of chances." The officer pulled. Summer resisted the pull. I can get out, she shouted. The opportunity for voluntary compliance had passed. The officer used leverage to extract her. He pulled her from the vehicle. She lost her footing. The momentum carried them both. The takedown was swift. Summer hit the pavement. "Please don't hurt her," Mark yelled. "Please, sir, don't hurt her." Summer was on the ground. She was confused and in pain. "What did I do?" she cried. The officer secured her. "Have a seat," he ordered. He accused her of physical resistance. "You resist, you get out." Summer denied the resistance. "I said I was getting out." The discrepancy is common in use of force incidents. The subject perceives they are complying. The officer perceives a delay as a threat. The video record becomes the arbiter. In this case, the delay was prolonged. The verbal refusal was repeated. The physical removal was a consequence of that sequence. The officer moved her to the curb. "We're going to have you sit over here." He attempted to restore order. "Give you privacy right here." Summer was crying. She was humiliated. "I can't believe you just threw my head down to this ground." She adjusted her clothing. She was wearing a tight dress. The officer acknowledged the awkwardness. "I'm not going to touch your chest." He called for a female officer. "Female officer going to come over and they can fix." Summer continued to process the violence. "I can't believe you just grabbed me for no reason." The officer corrected her. "No, man, we were trying to get you out of the car." He explained the alternative. "You could have came out." He minimized the force needed. "You could have just grabbed my arm." Summer argued the mechanics of the arrest. "I didn't try to fight." She claimed the body camera would vindicate her. "Open our body cam so differently." She threatened litigation. "I have a lawyer, so I hope you know you're going to hear from that." The officer was unfazed. He asked a standard liability question. "Do you need medical attention now?" Summer confirmed. "Yes." She claimed head injury. My whole head just got slammed into the concrete." She complained of pain. "I have head trauma." The officer called for the fire department. This is protocol. Any claim of injury during arrest requires medical clearance. It protects the department from future lawsuits. It ensures the detainee is fit for jail. While Summer sat on the curb, the investigation continued. Officers searched the Mercedes. They were looking for the source of the odor. They found it. Approximately 3 grams of cannabis were located. This confirmed the officer's initial suspicion. The probable cause was valid. However, 3 grams is a small amount. In many jurisdictions, this is a misdemeanor or a civil citation. It is rarely the primary driver for a custodial arrest. The arrest here was driven by the warrant and the resistance. The drugs were secondary. The officer later stated the cannabis was subsequently destroyed. They did not charge her for the narcotics. The focus remained on the behavioral offenses. The scene calmed down. Mark remained near the car. He was not arrested. He asked the officer for clarification. "Can you give me gas money?" He was stranded. "I'm stuck here, bro." The officer was dismissive. "You free to go, bro." Mark realized the gravity of his situation. He had no car. He had no money. His girlfriend was going to jail. He asked to say goodbye. Can I give her? No, she's going to jail. The officer denied physical contact. This is for safety and contraband control, Mark pleaded. I just wanted to give her a hug. The officer refused. No. Mark shouted his affection from a distance. I love you, Summer. Summer called back. I love you. The officers ran Summer's information. The computer returned a hit. She had an active warrant. The nature of the warrant was not disclosed in the video. Its existence, however, was pivotal. Even if Summer had been polite, she would have been arrested. The warrant mandated her custody. The resistance charge was an add-on. It was a self-inflicted legal wound. The officer explained this to Mark. She has a warrant too. This fact changed the narrative. The stop was not just about weed. It was about a fugitive. Summer's earlier claims of harassment lost weight. She was a wanted person. She was sitting in a high-crime area. She was refusing to identify herself. The police response followed a predictable flowchart. Summer was placed in the patrol car. She continued to debate the fairness of the encounter. I wasn't resistant, he grabbed me out anyway. She felt the force was disproportionate. I 110 and something pounds. She implied her size should have mitigated the response. The law does not scale force based on weight alone. It scales based on compliance. A small person with a weapon or intent can be dangerous. The officer viewed her refusal as a safety threat. He neutralized it. Summer asked about her phone. Do y'all have my phone? Mark retrieved it. The separation was finalized. Summer went to the county jail. Mark was left in the Wawa parking lot. The legal fallout for Summer was significant. She faced the charge of resisting officer without violence. This is a first-degree misdemeanor in Florida. It carries a penalty of up to 1 year in jail. It also carries a fine of up to $1,000. The prosecution must prove the officer was in the lawful execution of a legal duty. The detention was lawful due to the smell of marijuana. The order to exit was lawful under MIMS. The refusal to exit was the act of resistance. The defense would likely argue the force was excessive. They would argue the snatch was unnecessary. They might cite the consensual nature of the start. However, the body camera footage clearly captures the transition to detention. The officer's verbal warnings were distinct. The window of opportunity to comply was several minutes long. This case illustrates the danger of contempt of cop. This is a colloquial term for arrests driven by an officer's bruised ego. Critics might argue the officer could have waited longer. They might argue he could have de-escalated further. He knew she was 110 pounds. He knew she was emotional. Was the immediate extraction necessary? The law asks if it was reasonable, not if it was optimal. The Supreme Court case, Graham Dollars. Connor sets the standard. Force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene. It allows for split-second judgments. It does not demand 20/20 hindsight. An officer in a high drug area, facing a non-compliant subject with unknown weapons reach, is generally granted latitude to secure the scene. The systemic issues are also visible. Summer mentioned homelessness. She mentioned job loss. These are social crises. The police are often the first responders to economic despair. They are ill-equipped for social work. Their tools are handcuffs and citations. Summer viewed the parking lot as a sanctuary. The police viewed it as a crime zone. This disconnect creates conflict. A social worker might have approached differently, but a social worker was not on patrol. The broken windows theory of policing encourages stops like this. It posits that addressing minor disorder prevents major crime. The result is often the criminalization of poverty. Summer was sleeping in her car because she had nowhere else to go. She ended up with a criminal record and a concussion. The community impact is erosive. Encounters like this destroy trust. Summer felt targeted for being poor and black. "You just put your hands on a black woman," she shouted. She saw the incident through the lens of racial injustice. The officer saw it through the lens of procedural compliance. Both perspectives have validity in their respective worlds. The video circulates online. Viewers retreat to their corners. One side sees a tyrant cop. The other sees an entitled suspect. The middle ground of understanding evaporates. The Wawa parking lot becomes a battlefield in the culture war. Future interactions become more tense. The cycle of escalation continues. There are hard lessons here for every citizen. The most critical is the concept of comply now, complain later. The roadside is not a courtroom. You cannot win a legal argument with a patrol officer on the street. If an officer issues a lawful order, refusal is a crime. Even if the officer is wrong, resistance is often a separate offense. If the arrest is unlawful, the remedy is a lawsuit. The remedy is a motion to suppress evidence. It is not a refusal to exit the vehicle. Summer believed she could talk her way out. She believed her innocence regarding the drugs protected her. She was wrong. Her refusal to identify herself prolonged the stop. Her refusal to exit precipitated the violence. For law enforcement, the lesson is in discretion. The officer had the legal right to extract her. The question is whether it was the best tactical choice. Was the immediate physical control worth the risk of injury? Was it worth the public trust? De-escalation tactics emphasize time and distance. Slowing down the encounter can lower the temperature. The officer moved quickly from verbal command to physical force. This efficiency comes at a cost. It can escalate a minor regulatory check into a traumatic event. The discovery of the warrant vindicated the stop in the eyes of the law. It does not necessarily vindicate the tone of the interaction in the eyes of the community. The marijuana laws also played a central role. The smell of cannabis is a powerful tool for police. It bypasses the need for a warrant. It justifies the detention of everyone in the vehicle. As marijuana laws liberalize, this tool is becoming controversial. Many states have decriminalized possession. Yet, the smell often remains a valid basis for a search. This creates a gray area. Citizens with medical cards feel protected. Officers investigating impaired driving feel empowered, Summer claimed. The car is not on, so you cannot say it's no smoke. She was arguing about operation of a vehicle. The officer was investigating possession. These are different legal tracks. The smell justifies the possession probe regardless of the ignition status. The aftermath was silent. The patrol car drove away with Summer. The tow truck likely arrived for the Mercedes. Mark was left to figure out his next move. The Wawa continued to serve customers. The 24-hour cycle of commerce and crime resumed. The 3 grams of weed were incinerated. The video footage was uploaded to a server. It became a piece of evidence in a file. It also became a piece of content for the internet. The human cost was buried in the paperwork. Summer lost her freedom for the night. She likely faced legal fees she could not afford. The warrant she had ignored caught up with her. The bad day she was having got infinitely worse. In the end, the incident was a collision of desperate circumstances and rigid enforcement. Summer was fighting for her dignity. The officer was enforcing his authority. The law sided with the officer. The moral evaluation is more complex. It requires looking at the layers of poverty, policy, and psychology that brought them to that parking lot. It requires understanding that a consensual encounter is rarely truly consensual when a badge is involved. It requires acknowledging that compliance is the only safe path, even when it feels unjust. And it requires recognizing that every routine stop carries the potential for life-altering violence. The video ends with a text overlay. Officers discovered approximately 3 grams of cannabis. It notes the destruction of the drugs. It confirms the charge, resisting without violence. It asks the viewer for their thoughts. The question is rhetorical. The judgment has already been passed by the statutes of Florida. The outcome was written the moment Summer decided to stay in the car. The rest was just the mechanics of the state exerting its power. The dark parking lot at Wawa witnessed another routine tragedy of modern policing. No one won. Everyone lost something. And the patrol continued into the night.